Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of ICTV Headlines as usual. I am your host Dijana Kunovac. Thank you so much for joining us. UNC recently got a 4-star commitment from the #1 player in the state, running back Elijah Hood, and now that the smoke is cleared and the shock is gone and everything has settled down a little bit, we're here to discuss what exactly Hood's commitment to UNC means and what kind of impact he's going to have on this team in the near future. And who better to discuss all of that than our very own Don Callahan, a recruiting expert, guru, maestro, I don't even know what you prefer. Hey Don, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good, just enjoying the week. All right, let's talk commitment process first. As everybody knows, Hood was committed to Notre Dame before he made the switch. What was it that made him make that initial switch from his commitment to Notre Dame and then to UNC?
Well, basically, this starts a long time ago.
Take us way back.
Yeah, back when he was deciding between North Carolina and Notre Dame, it was a battle between going to a Catholic university or staying closer to home, which obviously the Catholic university would have been Notre Dame, and staying closer to home was going to be North Carolina. And initially, the Catholic university aspect won out, but eventually making a couple trips there as a commit, he started to realize just how far from home South Bend is, and it started to weigh on him a little bit. At the same time, he was keeping in contact with Gunnar Brewer in North Carolina, just here or there conversations, and he decided, hey, this is just too far. I need to decommit, and he did that. Took a step back from the recruiting process, and exactly a week after he decommitted from Notre Dame, he verbally committed to North Carolina.
Carolina fans are always wanting to keep in-state recruits in-state. So this is a big deal. Do you think his commitment to UNC is solid? Because there is that fear that, oh, well, he decommitted once, there could be the chance.
Well, I've learned a long time ago that recruiting that there is nothing that is certain.
Okay.
So you got to kind of expect the unexpected. But considering the circumstances, I just don't see it right now. But who knows what the future has for us. I mean, I didn't expect him to decommit up until maybe about a month or so ago. I didn't expect that he would be decommitting from Notre Dame in the first place. So the fact that that North Carolina is close to home, is the school that he has the strongest relationship with the coaches and also with fellow commits, obviously bodes well for UNC.
Kids these days, you never know. That's what it is. All right, let's talk about what kind of running back he is. You've gotten to see him a few times in person. Huge skill set there, and you have raved about him and the type of skills he brings. I mean, just start us off. Thoughts on him?
Well, I'll start off with, basically a pretty bold statement that I made about a year ago when I first saw him in person, because obviously his film is impressive, but so many kids, their films are impressive. Then when you see him in person, I don't want to say they don't live up to expectations, but most film that you see are their highlights.
Exactly.
So it's their best clips. So you kind of see the warts when you see them in person, and it's very difficult to find any warts when it comes to Elijah Hood. But seeing him in person, when I first saw him a year ago, when I saw him again, a couple weeks ago, I believe that he is, well, not only I believe, I feel that he is the best running back I've ever seen in person on the high school level.
It's big words, Don Callahan, big words. Better than Gurley and Marshall, you think?
Yeah. I was, believe it or not, I wasn't a huge Marshall fan. Now, Gurley was a little bit in a different category because he was more of an athlete. He was used all over the field and in different aspects, but he wasn't nearly as dominating as Elijah Hood was. And just to give you a quick example, in the game that I saw recently against Gonzaga, Gonzaga's team had like 7 Division 1A players on their team, or FBS players on their team, or going to be playing FBS players, including 3 or 4 on their defense. Including Richie Pettibone, who has offers from all across the nation, including Alabama. And Elijah Hood single-handedly, in my belief, helped Charlotte Catholic defeat Gonzaga in a game that was 35-28, back and forth matchup. where he just constantly broke tackles, burst through the hole, outran the defense, and scored all 5 of Catholic's touchdowns.
So physically, what kind of skill set do you think he brings as a running back? Is he more of a bruiser? Is he more of the quick guy? What are you seeing from him in that sense?
Well, he's a bruiser with speed.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so so that's what makes him so unique, is that he's, people look at him, and even when you watch him on film, because I've had a lot of people say, hey, he's not all that fast, but in reality he is. At the previous 2 Nike combines, which use, instead of a hand-timed 40-yard dash, they actually use electric time 40-yard dash, and at those Nike combines, at both of them, over 1,300 participants participated in those combines, and he had the fastest 40-yard dash at both of them.
Wow!
And we're talking about 2 years ago, Darrell Scott, who many would think, if you weren't aware of that fact, is definitely faster than Elijah Hood. But at the very same combine, time with the same equipment on the same field, Elijah Hood had a faster 40-yard time.
Wow!
So he has the speed, he has the quick feet, and he just the best way to describe him is he's just so violent when
it's scary.
Yeah, and the strangest thing with that is when you're talking to the kid, it's almost like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, because he's such a nice kid. He's very, very, very humble. When you're talking to him about his accomplishments, he always wants to push off those accomplishments to his teammates, to his offensive line. Never wants to take credit for anything. Just a really good kid. And really doesn't like a lot of the attention that the recruiting process has brought to him, especially the second time around.
Well, you mentioned the recruiting process. How big of a pickup do you think this was for UNC?
Well, it's big on 2 fronts. The first front is the fact that North Carolina's last remaining need heading into that commitment, before that commitment, was a running back.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could check that off.
Yeah.
And not only you could check it, you could put a nice big
star, exclamation point, emoji, whatever you want to use.
Yeah, because you're landing a 4-star guy, the top guy on your board for the entire recruiting process. Secondly, though, it also lands the top recruit in the state of North Carolina, and it's been quite some time since North Carolina has been able to do that. And everyone who knows about what Coach Fedora has been trying to do from a recruiting standpoint, he's been trying to keep as many in-state prospects home, and there's no better message of doing that than by signing or at least securing a verbal commitment from the state's top recruit.
Yeah. You talk about him coming to UNC and all of that, and I know there's still a year and he has his senior season. Just kind of jumping the gun a little bit, but do you see him jumping the other guys that are going to be on UNC's roster and maybe getting that starting spot? Is he that dynamic or talented enough this early in his career?
Well, I think Coach Fedora has shown a desire to use a running back by committee. Okay. So, for example, Romar Morris technically started the Thursday night game, but I don't know off the top of my head how many carries AJ Blue received, and keep in mind that he was a little banged up, but he received plenty of carries. Yeah. And I think throughout this year we'll see Chris Francis get in the rotation also. So what I expect to happen is I expect Elijah Hood to be in the rotation. I don't expect him to start, but I expect him to be featured prominently as a true freshman.
I know you're very high on him, and I hate to ask you this, but anything the kid can work on? He's like running back god here.
You know what? I have tried to find things, and it's so difficult. And I honestly can't think of anything. You're talking about a kid who's great in the classroom. He has a great family life. He's a humble kid. He's not a Johnny Football type of kid. He's a power back with speed. The only thing that I could possibly think of is just the lack of experience as a receiver. Okay. He is the fullback, or the B back as they call it, in the wing T at his high school, so they don't throw it very often, let alone throw it to him. In the game that I saw against Gonzaga, they had 2 passes thrown, period, in the entire game. And this is a very close game. So, and none of them were thrown to him. And when they did throw, they kept him in the backfield blocking. So he doesn't have a lot of experience as a receiver, and obviously, Coach Fedora's offense does like to use a running back as a receiver. So that's something that he needs to work on, and that'd be the only blemish I could think of.
If the fact that he hasn't played receiver is the biggest concern from this kid, that Carolina fans can rest easy. I think that's pretty solid. I think that's also it, Don. I mean, I feel like you've pretty much covered the bases, unless there's something else you want to throw out there. Any secrets or anything about him you want to share?
No, trust me, I've tried to cover a lot. While I was there at Charlotte Catholic, I talked to some people. I mean, when I visited Charlotte Catholic for that Gonzaga game, it was actually between the decommitment and the commitment.
Oh, okay.
So everybody at that point knew it was going to be North Carolina. It was just a matter of time. Nobody knew exactly when it was going to happen. So I was trying to see if I could find any dirt whatsoever, and it's just nothing. Like I said, great parents, goes to a great school, great in the classroom, great teammates, well respected, well liked. I mean, the list goes on and on.
We will end it on that note then. I appreciate you joining us. Always a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's going to be it for this edition of ICTV Headlines as usual. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Tune in next time.